Actually, that kind of brings us on to this next one. Is since our last show, I went out to Disneyland Paris for a kind of like a 3-day break. No, it's 4 days. Literally was a last minute decision. Managed to kind of put together enough and sort of flew. So we flew out from Manchester to Disneyland Paris. Great flight. First time I've used Air France. They were pretty cool. You know, one of the funniest things was when you're sitting on the plane and they come around and they offer you a drink. Now, I don't know how it is in America now, but with over here, everything's like low cost. You've got to pay for everything as you're going along. Oh, it's included in the price. And you're like, yeah, I'll have one. It's like, it's kind of started off the trip. I was very pleased with Air France. It was only an hour flight for me, so that was always great. We used the...
Before you keep going, I was going to say, it used to be where anywhere you fly here in the States, they used to give you like a meal, and snacks and a drink. Now, they used to even have like free booze, if I remember correctly, too. But now, anywhere you fly, everything costs money. The only thing that they give you is like a complimentary drink, and that's just one.
They don't even get that on most of ours now.
Yeah. But if you fly international, however, oh man, everything's so free that they'll try to get you drunk before you get off the plane.
Well, if now from here, if you fly like low cost, you get nothing included. If you go long haul, you'll get a drink. You'll get drinks. Even if you go, when we say international, anything like within Europe now, most of the airlines, unless you're going scheduled, won't do it. So it's only the charter flights. But anywho, that was a kind of a quick thing of. It made it's funny, a tiny little can, you know, that makes you like this big. Starts your holiday off going, oh, I got a free drink, because that's the only thing I'm going to get free for the next 4 days. So we took the train from Charles de Gaulle Airport straight to Disneyland Paris. It was about a 9-minute high-speed train. It's the first time we've done that, and that was so much better than going on the bus that Disneyland put on from the airport. Because the bus is about 50 minutes to an hour and a half. The train, 9 minutes straight into the train station. Because it's the big Eurostar train that goes through. But that's awesome. Big high-speed train. And and there wasn't much difference in the price. But yeah, from now on, whenever we do that, we've said we're going to use the train. We're not going to use the bus anymore. It was the first time we stayed off-site. And I can't remember the name. It was a Haraki, not the Haraki. It was something like that. It was KYRIK, something like that. It was like, it was that one, the one with a KY in it. There's a kayak.
Okay. So you stayed in Iraq again with the Iraqis?
So we stayed off site for the first time because it was half the price of staying on site, which I've always done in the past. But we decided, since it was literally a last minute sort of cheap, sort of try to do it as cheap as possible, we stayed on, I say off site, but there is about 4 or 5 hotels that are partner hotels. They still have a free bus going every 10 minutes to the parks. So we used that one. That was we really enjoyed that. It was a nice hotel, and the fact we had the free buses to Disneyland meant that we could get in and out nice and easy. They were absolutely packed. I mean, just people pushing and shoving and trying to put the push chairs on, and the buses are always a bit of a nightmare.
So tell us about your experience in going in the snow, because this is the first time you go when it's cold, right?
No, actually, there was no snow. When me and my wife went about 4 years ago, it was the Big Thunder Mountain Lake was frozen over.
Oh, okay. I thought you went where there was snow.
But this time, it wasn't so much snow, but one of the days it was freezing, and we had our hats and our coats and things, and you could tell you're in Disneyland, not in America at that point. When you look around, and everyone's got big duffel coats and woolly hats and gloves on and standing in the queues and watching sort of the Dream show at night. Everyone's like, but yeah, this is not America. There's always that kind of thing, I think, you know, because obviously for us, when we go to the US, Florida or California, it's, you know, we're in our shorts, our t-shirts, we're in summer mode. But yeah, so going to Disneyland Paris in sort of winter time, it's very different. But then I think because of that, they acknowledge the fact that they're in the winter a little bit more. There's no water rides, there's no Splash Mountain or anything like that, because it just wouldn't work. I think a lot of the queues kind of in and out, and they've got a bit of cover. but also quite luckily they don't tend to put the heat on, which it's one of the, in some people might be, oh, it might be a bit cold, but if you've got all your gear on, you don't want to kind of keep taking it on and off when you're in the queue.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, so that was good. The queue wise, it was pretty busy. It was you'd be, I think we waited 50 minutes for Big Thunder Mountain. It was just under an hour for Crush Coaster, which is which is the fun. That one always has a big queue. I mean, it was the Crush's Coaster is Disneyland Paris. I think it's exclusive to there. It's a big. Yeah. It's a Finding Nemo themed. You sit on a big turtle shell.
Yeah.
And it turns around while you're on it, but it's also like a roller coaster, a bit like Space Mountain. It's inside in the dark, and you sat in a shell that's turning you sideways, and you're going backwards. And the kind of the Finding Nemo scene, you kind of go through the bit at the beginning that's kind of got Finding Nemo. The rest of the attraction, they literally could be anything. It's just a dark ride. There's no, you're going so fast, and me and my wife are screaming, and we get off of it and going, yeah, that was what I think we spent half the ride going backwards, and we don't like going backwards on it, and it's so fast. Yeah, it's great fun. They had a new app thing where you could play a game while you were waiting in the special zone, and all you got is like all these people just sitting there like this in the queue, just playing on their game. It was like, move. So Crush Coaster was good. Also,
what about the new Ratatouille?
Yeah, Ratatouille. Got there when we got there in the morning for Hollywood, or in the Hollywood Studio Park. Went straight to Ratatouille to get the fast pass. That was it. That's where we headed straight in. That's where we're going to get the fast pass for that, because that was the one thing we wanted to do. Got there, ride's broken.
Oh no!
I'm like, oh, damn it! This was the one thing we wanted to do this whole trip. So broken. We then walked back to Crush Coaster. Thought, well, if that one's not working, we'll go to Crush Coaster. Either get in line or get a fast pass. That was down. So I'm like, oh my god, the two big rides, the best rides, are down. So in the end, we went over onto the Radiator Springs, kind of like it's a little like thing where you get in a car and it spins you around.
Yeah, right.
That made me feel so sick, and I was like, oh god, it's not built for me. It was at which time, by the time we got out of it, Ratatouille was open. We got a fast pass. Later in the afternoon, we walked through the fast pass straight onto the ride. After just doing an hour at Crush Coaster, it felt fantastic to feel like there was no queue on the fast pass, and we were just like, woo. So you sit in this big like rat kind of vehicle, and you've got your 3D glasses on. I didn't realize it was a 3D glasses thing, which is, I will admit now, I'm never a big fan of having to wear two pairs of glasses on. The 3D just doesn't seem to work for me very well, because you've got two pairs of glasses on. It suddenly gets really dark, and it's not such a great experience for me. So that was the one thing that kind of put me on, oh no. But you're in like a trackless vehicle, and it sort of goes on its own. So there's no track, and it just works through. And you're going through, and you're basically going through the restaurant with the chef trying to get you, and sort of Remy trying to sort of get around. And it's all like really big, and there's loads of 3D stuff. It's kind of like a tame version of the Transformers attraction in Universal. It's kind of in that sort of same thing, but it's not on a track. So it's going on its own, and it's moving around. Really cool ride. It's great that it's in Paris. It fits in with the Ratatouille. They've also built like a whole area where there's like an outside bit with a fountain, and it just looks a nice little area that sort of themes in very nicely.
They built a bistro too, right? Like a little restaurant as well.
Yes. Well, they used to have Remy the Rat. He used to be in one of the other restaurants. We saw him last year. And they come around with him on a plate, and they open up the dome, and he's in there interacting with him. They've moved him into that bistro. It's very expensive, but because we saw him and interacted with him last time, we weren't too worried about going in and seeing that one.
Gotcha.
And we were trying to do it on the cheap.
On the cheap side, yeah.
That's the thing with the park prices on the food, is it's especially if you want to sit down with a knife and fork, it's quite expensive. I mean, we went in the Palace Gardens buffet for evening meal, and it was like €26 for this buffet, which I don't know what that might be, about $35-40 for a buffet.
Wow.
So it's not cheap, but we kind of were like, well, we want to have at least one proper meal a day. There's you can only go so long on sandwiches. And, we did go into Earl of Sandwich in downtown Disney, or in the Disney Village, and that was pretty cool. I had this in one of the things. I had this monsieur, was it croque monsieur or something? It was like this soggy, cheesy bread that was kind of nice, but my wife hated it. But I'm trying to think what else it was. And we did most of the attractions, all the big ones. The Dreams fireworks show is amazing. They really kind of, I should really put up the videos that I took on the channel, because there's the fireworks, and there's a lot of, they've really integrated the projections onto the castle. So it's all interacting. So the whole castle is moving, and you've got Quasimodo, you've got Brave, you've got Lion King. What else is on it? Oh, Tinkerbell. But it's all going on there, and it's such a fantastic show. And I'll be honest, it does beat out the Walt Disney World sort of big fireworks to me. It's, there's nothing really. I've never really seen as good a show as Dreams. It just, and if the Disneyland ones follow that suit, they can't really go too wrong on that.
Yeah, the Disneyland fireworks shows have been pretty awesome lately, especially since the 50th. They've been pretty well. So. Dreams
is a amazing sort of show, and it really does kind of kick in. The parade hasn't really changed too much since over the last few years. Actually, they put there's a new Frozen sort of. You see Anna, Elsa, we're kind of half afloat because they only get half each brat thing. Mm. That's always good, and there's lots of interaction and stuff with the parade. So it's always one of those things you get to see a lot. You get to see a lot more of the characters. They also had the swinging to spring parade that we saw, and all the characters come out, and they're all in sort of colourful spring outfits, and the whole of Main Street's done out with flowers. And we did, and also there's a little like Mary Poppins little live show that they put on every hour during the spring. Love it, really cool. I think the swinging to spring is a great way of giving something for this time of the year. Maybe not it's not the summer season, it's not Christmas or Halloween, but the spring shows add that little nice extra touch. You feel like you're seeing something that you don't see the rest of the time. Okay. So that was really cool. But generally, we had a fantastic time. Great couple of days to get to Paris. I know a lot of people, especially UK people, maybe if you've been to Disneyland or Walt Disney World in America, it's very easy to compare and kind of go, well, that's different. You've really kind of got to go in sort of with the mindset of this isn't Walt Disney World. It is Disneyland Paris. It's a few days. You get to experience the bits and pieces. It's not Florida, and I think if you accept that before you go there, there are some things that are good about it and some things that aren't as good as Disney World. But to me, it was a case of that is my Disney trip for the year. That is perfect. And I love the fact I can get there in an hour on the plane, and I can do it all and get back and not have, I can do it for so much less of the cost than going to the US for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's a bit more like how maybe Americans, you guys tend to go to Disneyland or Walt Disney World just for a few days. Whereas if we go, like Europeans go to Disney World, we go for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and do it. So there's always been that sort of thing of we go to Paris for a few days, which is slightly different.
Yeah, it's just because since they're in our home front, we don't really make a big trip out of it. But yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, but no, so the Disneyland Paris was a really cool trip and loved it.
Good, but you had fun, man.
Yes, it's like I said, I wanted to get in my Disney trip for this year. Even if, as far as I'm concerned now, if I could get to Paris once a year, I'll be extremely, extremely happy. Because going to Disney World is fantastic, but I could go to Disneyland Paris for 6 years straight for the same amount of money of going to Walt Disney World once. So there's a very kind of line of going, yeah, we can pop off for a quick weekend to Paris, or Disney World.
Well,
Big cost difference.
I was gonna say you're due for a trip to California though, because I don't think you've experienced California Adventure.
No.
Have you ever been there at all?
I've been to Disneyland in California twice, so I've been there.
But I mean, California Adventure. Have you been there?
No, never went to California Adventure both times. Only had limited time, so I had 2 days for parks. So we did Universal and Disneyland both times.
Yeah, it's definitely a night and day difference to how it was when it first opened. So
yeah, I mean that was 10 years since I was in Disneyland in California.
Oh yeah, big difference.
It's the same. It was the same like I remember when I went to Tokyo. You know, I went to Disney Sea rather than Disney Tokyo because it was like, oh, I want to go to a different park and not sort of the same kind of
thing.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So California is something that we will maybe look at to start saving for. But yeah, that's a big trip.
That's a 2-week one.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a 2-week one. I mean yes, a lot of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Anything you want to add to that before we close off this one for the week?
No, nothing there.
Cool. That's cool.
I wasn't at Paris, so I don't know.
That's cool. I think it's a one thing though. It's like we were going on a few of the attractions and going. It's like the stunt motor show car. I don't know if they've got that in Disneyland.
They have it in Disney World.
And we're watching it going. And my wife said, you know what? This is our third trip to Paris. She said, I wish they'd just make a few adjustments to this show and just make it look at it. She said, even she's starting to go, some of these shows, they really could do with sort of updating, especially like the stunt show, because you'd think like they could update that a lot easier. Do a different stunt or do a different story or just try and mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, just add something new. Yeah, no, I agree with you.
No. Okay, I think that pretty much wraps it up. So if you're listening to us on iTunes, you can subscribe there. If you're on YouTube, you can subscribe onto our channel. What I do tend to do on the YouTube one is I'll split this down into 3 separate parts, make it a bit easier for people. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Big thank you to A for joining me today for this show. Just an informal, just Disney chat. That's pretty much what this show is all about.
That's all it is.
Yeah. Okay, guys, and we shall see you guys in another episode. And remember, you can also check us out on our weekly Disney Infinity podcast. And see you guys later. Laters.
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 Yo.